Not sure which units are meta. Seeing the tier list change almost every day. Well, don't worry. You don't need to look any further than this tier list. Because today, we're going to be doing a meta tier list in the new Anime Rangers X 1000 Year Blood War Part 2 update. So, without stalling anymore, let's get straight into it. So, I'd like to give a quick disclaimer that, some of the units are not going to be on here because I either don't believe that they are worth talking about or they've received little to no changes. And so you can check out my other tier list in the past if you're wondering where they are. But there's some units that just shouldn't be on here, especially a lot of the base ones. They're not worth getting at all. So if they're not on here, I wouldn't even consider them. Now, there are maybe one or two that aren't bad, but they don't really deserve to be on the list because they're just very old and not really relevant. Now, but let's get straight into it. First up, we have Ace. Now, Ace is a pretty old unit at this point and is unobtainable because you had to get him through the old AFK chamber. Now, I'm not sure if you can trade him, but if you cannot, then he is no longer obtainable. As you can see, these are his stats. Here's his passive if you want to read that. His damage numbers are okay and his health is okay. He's just a very old unit. But what makes him so good is his price and his speed. So for that reason, I'm probably going to put Ace in trash. Now, last tier list, he was in mid, but I just don't really see the point to running him. There are very cheap options still, and there are options that do more damage, and even options that are quicker than him. So I almost don't see the reason to get him, and plus he's very hard to get now. I'm not even sure if you can get him anymore, so if you missed out on him, then there's no real reason to get him. Now, I could see the argument for mid. Now, he's not new player friendly, obviously, because you can't get him if you're a new player. I could see the argument for mid, but I just don't see the reason to bring him anymore. Once a staple of almost everyone's team, now doesn't really have a purpose at all. Alright, next we have Tandro. Now, the reason someone like Tandro is still on the list, even though he's so old, as you can see, you have his stats here. He also has an ultimate as well. But the reason why someone like Tandro is on this list is pretty simple, which I'll explain. Obviously, you saw the stats here. They're not amazing or anything. But the reason why he's on here is because he is fairly new player friendly. He is super, super easy to evo, and he can carry you through almost the entire story, if not all of it. So he's very new player friendly. I could see the argument for him being trash, and he probably won't even be on the tier list in the next one just because there's so many new player friendly units now, and they're buffing old units as well that are easy to evo. So Tandro may not have a spot here much longer, but he's just incredibly easy to get. Also, he's really cheap, so he's very easy for the story mode. Next, we have Gogeta. Now, Gogeta is a unit that is very similar to Ace just because of how cheap he is, but he also has an ultimate. He's basically a way better Ace, just slightly more expensive and only one placement, but he's still not that expensive at all. He's relatively cheap to get up. As you can see, these are his stats here. He is an old unit, but he's still decent, I would say, and he's actually pretty easy to get. So this is going to put Gogeta in new player friendly. Now, before I used to have him in mid, but there's just so many better options than him now, but he's still extremely easy to get for a new player and extremely helpful. He can for sure carry through all the legend stages, all the story mode very easily. Gogeta's very strong and very easy to get. Next, we have Igris. I don't have Igris, so I can't show gameplay on him, but I'm going to put him mid. He's very cheap and he's a decent tank, but he's not really easy to get at all, so it's either between mid or trash, and he's definitely not trash, but he's a mid unit. He's just a decent tank. Next, we have Broly. Now, Broly is another unit who is incredibly easy to get. Almost as easy as hitting the subscribe button. I mean, you're already here, why not? You can always unsubscribe later if you don't want to. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the summer ends, so why not? With that being said, we can talk about Broly. As you can see, Broly has decent ability damage, decent health, and decent damage. He also has a passive, and he's extremely easy to get, but he is kind of expensive. So for that reason, Broly's going to move into trash. He was in mid in the last tier list just because of how easy it is, but how expensive he is and just overall his worth is just not there. There's a lot of units you can get that actually do more damage unevoed just from the banner. So I would honestly say Broly has earned himself that trash tier. Alright, next we have Gojo. Now, Gojo is another old unit. He's incredibly old. However, he lasted quite a while. I don't want to say in the meta, but he lasted quite a while as a very good unit. As you could say, his health is decent, his damage is decent, his cooldown isn't bad. He's just incredibly slow. That's his big problem. You can only have one at a time as well, and he's really, really expensive. However, he was very good for a very long time. I'm just not sure if he's quite there anymore. I hate to say it, but once the best unit in the game might be finding his way into trash. He still does okay damage, but there's just so much better now that there's no real point to bring him. I could see the argument for mid, but I am going to put him trash, especially because he is so slow. Alright, next we have Madara. Now, Madara is a unit that is similar to Gogeta. He's obtained literally the same exact way. As you can see, his range is huge already, and you have his health. He's obtained the same exact way, so he's honestly relatively similar. Gogeta does way more damage, but Madara has a little bit more health, as well as Madara is definitely cheaper. But he's full AoE, so he's very useful for things like the story, but I can't say he's much better, if at all, than Gogeta. So for that reason, he's going to go new player friendly, but just behind Gogeta, he's not quite as good as him. Next, we have Tatsumaki. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering why I even have Tatsumaki on here. And there is pretty much only one reason. She is basically the exact same as Tandro, except she's summonable, and you don't even have to Evo her. So she's pretty much just another Tandro, which means as well she will probably be off the list by next video. So with that, she's going to go right next to Tandro. I'm going to put her ahead because she is cheaper, and she is from Banner, and you don't have to Evo her. But she's pretty much the same as Tandro. Both of these will probably be out of here by then, because they're making so many new player-friendly units that it's crazy. Alright, next we have Killer or Kira. Now, Kira is a relatively cheap unit to summon, and his cooldown is not that bad. As you can see, his range isn't crazy, his health damage and everything is not really that good. So the reason you would ever run Kira is because of the passive, which you can read all this if you want to, but it's just too much. It's not really that good. As you can see, you have to go around and collect the coins as well. He's not good for AFKing at all, but he's okay. He's not a terrible unit. So for that, Kira's probably going to go into mid. I'll probably put him just above Igris, just because he has so many different ways his passive can work. It's actually not terrible to have him, but yeah, he's definitely no longer, or sorry, he never was great, but he is definitely not good. All right, next we have Kaneki. All right, so we have Kaneki here. As you can see, mine is going to be a little bit stronger than everyone else's because I do have Duplicator, and he is level 100. But as you can see, you have the stats here. The damage is really, really good. The health is decent. It's not bad at all, and the ability damage is very strong. Plus, he is very, very quick. You can see the stats on him there, but you also have his passive ability, which you can read here, and then you have all these different crit chances and everything. Overall, a very, very solid unit. However, I do think he's slowly being pushed out just because of how strong the meta is nowadays, but he is still incredibly, incredibly good. So for that, Kaneki is going to go in good. I can't say he's in meta anymore just with how good the units are now. But next up, we have Fugo. Now, to be honest, I'm not even sure why I included Fugo. Now, keep in mind, mine's level 1, so the stats aren't great. His stats are going to be a lot higher than this. But the reason I don't want to get him up is because he really just isn't that good. There's not too much about him that I would say is crazy. You have his passive here, which relies on him getting low health without dying, which just isn't really that great of a passive. His stats aren't that bad, but as you can see, his range is very low, so he's just not a great unit to have. I'm going to put Fugo in mid, though, because yes, you can get his passive to work, and then he ends up becoming pretty decent, but it's just not great overall. You're not really going to use that much. All right, next we have Yuta, who I don't have, but Yuta is still an insane DPS, but I'm probably just going to put him in good. I mean, his passive's just not really great at all. It's not anything you really need, especially for the newer stuff. The newer stuff's not that difficult, so I'm going to put him in good. He's just fallen out by now. Next we have Akaza, who's another unit I do not have. And Akaza is honestly just not a great unit to have. He's very similar to Fugo, and honestly, I'd probably I could move Fugo down to new player friendly. He's very easy to get. Akaza's not. I think I'm going to move him to trash. He's just not very good. His passive's just not easy to get off. I just don't think Akaza's a great option to have. All right, next we have Diavolo. Now, I do have Diavolo, but I don't have him evoed, so I'm not even going to show the things, but he is very good. His abilities are pretty good. He's not meta or anything, but he is a pretty strong unit. So for that, Diavolo is going to go in good. I'd probably put him behind Kaneki. I don't think he's quite as good as him. And next we have Giorno. Now, Giorno is a similar case. I also don't have him evoed, but his passives are pretty good. He is a pretty good support, but there's just better supports to run, but he's definitely a decent option. So for that, Giorno is going to go in good, probably just right behind Diavolo. All right, next we have Guterro. Now, Guterro is actually an insanely strong unit. As you can see, the health and damage isn't anything insane. The ability damage is pretty good, so you're probably wondering, well, what makes him so good? Obviously, he's incredibly cheap, but if you look at the passive, this is what he's useful for. All of this, you can pause and read it if you want, but it is so good against bosses. He's probably the best boss killer in the entire game, and so he's just incredibly strong. So for that, Guterro is going to be our first unit in meta. He's just such a good boss killer, it's actually insane. All right, next we have, I can't remember the name of this person, but they're trash. I don't know, I shouldn't even bother had them on here. I should have got rid of them, but they're not good. Next we have Rayleigh, who's also trash. They will be gone as well. I don't have Rayleigh either. But next we have Pucci, who again, I don't have Pucci, but Pucci is very strong. He has a lot of great abilities. He does pretty good damage, has good range and everything. He is a meta unit. Sakamoto as well should be in trash. I'm sorry I didn't have him in there. But next we have Carrot. I do have Carrot, but unevoed sadly, but Carrot is just a pretty good unit. I could see her above Ken Kaneki or even close to Yuta. She's probably around Yuta's range, to be honest. She's pretty decent, but I don't know because I don't have her up, but I would probably say she's around Yuta as well. Next we have Void Mask. Now this is another character I should be taking off the list. This guy is just incredibly terrible. He's one of the most expensive characters in the game and does no damage and doesn't have a lot of health. And I'm not even sure if he has a passive, to be honest. Just a terrible character. Next we have, I believe this is Black Reaper, which I do not have. However, from what I've seen from him, he appears to be a mid unit. Decent damage, but nothing really crazy about him. Next we have Sid, who again I don't have. I really missed a lot between the Sid and Tokyo Ghoul update because those updates in my opinion weren't great. Sid, however, is a meta damage dealer, has a nuke as well, I believe. Just incredibly strong, but obviously he was pretty rare to get. Next we have Eto, which I don't really have an excuse to not have her. I just haven't done it, to be honest. I've been grinding new stuff, but she actually received a buff, and so she is pretty dang strong. I'm not quite sure if she's stronger than Pucci because I don't have her, but she is a whole lot stronger now. She did receive a buff with this update, which makes her a lot better. Next we have Blood Queen, which also pisses me off because this is a unit that I have spent so many gems trying to get and I just can't get her, but she is meta. She does very good with bleed and stuff, especially it looks like bleed is going to become meta with the new units that have been added, but I'm not going to talk about that yet until we get to it. Next we have Silver Reaper, who used to be at the top of DPS according to the devs. Now people have told me that that wasn't true, but that's what they had. Whenever Silver Reaper came out, they had him as the top DPS in the game. So I'm going to put him in meta. He's still pretty good, but he's going to be towards the bottom, if anything, in good. I might move him in good because I don't really see the reason to bring him, to be honest. All right, next we have Spin Master. Now, Spin Master is another unit I don't have evoed because, unfortunately, he is terrible. I love Gyro, but he's just not good in this game. And it pains me to say it, but he is going to have to go in trash. I'd probably put him above Broly, though, but he's just not good. Next we have Funny Valentine, who, again, I don't have, but he is actually a okay unit. He's not bad. His damage isn't great and his passives aren't great, but he's not bad. I'm probably going to put him at the top of mid. Next up we have Dio, which I'm currently working to get, but he is insanely meta. He is arguably the best unit in the game. I've seen some people say he is. Some people say Eizen's better, who we have later as well, but he is a top 2 unit in the game. He's incredibly good. Next we have Johnny Joestar. Okay, so next up we have Johnny. Obviously I have Duplicator on him, so that does make him stronger, but as you can see, he has his health and damage here, which isn't bad, and his ability damage is pretty strong as well. What's really good is he just starts off really cheap, and you don't his damage doesn't go up much from the upgrades. As you can see, he has all these crit chances as well, which are incredibly strong. And then he has these passives here, which are pretty good. He used to be meta right when he came out, but then he fell off relatively quickly. However, I say fell off, I still do think he's a good unit, and I'd probably put him right above Ken Kaneki. They're very similar in their value, so I'd probably put them next to each other. Next we have Lord Slime, which is another unit I have, but I don't have evoed. And I know people were saying in my last one that, oh, Lord Slime's passive is good. It's just really not. I mean, the health thing's just not good, because in what situation are you ever going to need that, to be honest? There's not a game mode where you need your unit to heal. Your unit's either going to get one-shotted or you're going to kill the boss easily without needing your unit to regen. So overall, I'd say Lord Slime is... I'd probably put her in new player friendly. You could put her in mid. I might put her in mid, actually, because she is decent, but overall not that great. Very new player friendly to get, though. Next, we have the Shark, who is definitely new player friendly. I'm going to put it at the top because it's just super easy to get and super... I'm not even sure if he has an Evo, but he's just really easy to get. Does decent damage as well. I'm not going to showcase him as well because he's not a great unit or anything. Next, we have Pride or Escanor. No, I'm not going to lie, Escanor is pretty expensive, but as you can see here, his health is ridiculous. He's an amazing tank. He also does a lot of damage and has a great ability cooldown. As you can see, I do have Sovereign on him, and he's level 80, so that is a little bit buff, but his damage numbers are still insane, and he has a passive as well, plus all these as well, and you can read this passive. It's pretty dang strong. So for that, Pride is going to go into meta. I'd probably put him just right above Blood Queen. Blood Queen's good, but I do think she is probably going to be pushed out. Although the bleed meta is coming, so she might be very valuable in that. I just am not sure if she's going to be worth bringing or not. Escanor, I do think, is slightly better. Next, we have the Almighty. Now, the Almighty, as you can see, I do have Duplicator on him, but his stats are very good. He does decent damage, but he's an insane tank with insane ability damage as well. Also, you got all the crit numbers as well, and then you have his passive. Now, the thing that makes this guy so good is not quite what you would think, even though it's how insanely good he is on here. It's actually something a little bit different. He is obtained the same exact way as Gogeta and Madara, which makes him incredibly easy to get. But he is meta even without that, even with the stats. I'd probably put him right above Blood Queen. I'm not sure if he's quite as good as Escanor or not, just because damage-wise it's not the same. And damage is a lot more valuable than tanks. But he is very good and very easy to get. So if you don't have him, go get him. It shouldn't take you more than an hour. It's incredibly easy to get him. Alright, next we have a Zord Demon. Now this is another unit I have, however, I don't think he's incredibly strong. I do think he's a mid unit. I think kind of around Lord Slime. His damage is pretty decent and his health is and stuff too. So he's probably around Lord Slime. New player friendly if you want, but not anything insane. Alright, next we have Lullaby or Yuta. Alright, so we have Yuta here. Now I do have Duplicator on her, so it is different. But as you can see, she's full AoE. Her health isn't that good, but her damage is pretty strong, and so is her ability damage. Also, she has these as well, and she is very, very easy to get, but that's not even what makes her that good. It's this passive right here, buffing every unit. It's insane. Her buffs are actually crazy, and it's honestly so good, and she's so incredibly easy to get. Now, she doesn't have her ultimate yet, but she is still one of the best units in the game. Now, with her ultimate, I only imagine she's going to go up, but she is incredibly strong. I'd honestly even put her above people like Eto and Sid, just because of how strong her passive is, and she does good damage. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat something like that. Now, I know Eto and Sid do a whole lot more damage, but Yuta is just a lot more team-friendly, if that makes sense. Alright, next we have Eizen, or Soul King. As you can see, we have Eizen here. I do have Duplicator on him, so again, the stats may be a little bit different. But as you can see, his damage is insane, his ability is insane. I mean, he's just incredibly slow. But as you can see, he also has these passives as well. Now, a lot of people have told me the reason why they think Dio is better is because it takes so long for these to happen, which is true, yes. But Dio is also one that you have to wait for. Now, his is a lot more easier to get, right? But with they're relatively the same, right? So it's kind of pick your poison, I guess. And Aizen also has this ultimate, which I'm honestly not even sure what it does. The target must be a unit. Okay. I doubt I'm going to be able to use it because they're just going to one-shot this. I mean, I can spam it. Let's see if they actually do it. Okay, well, that does something. I'm not entirely sure what his ultimate does, but he is incredibly powerful. Just believe it. Now, Aizen, I have him, so I'd bias him and put him over Dio, but I do get the argument for Dio as well. However, I do think Aizen in the long run will probably be better, but it's going to be close. So between those two, it doesn't really matter. Next, we have Shinji. Now, my Shinji is not max level because, well, I've been grinding a bunch of other stuff and I haven't had the time to go get food. But as you can see, here are his stats. They're not incredibly amazing. He has an ultimate, though, and he has this passive, which his passive is relatively good. I'm not 100% sure what his ultimate does. Let's see, we activate it. Okay, it freezes everything, which is pretty good. Even him, though? So I'm not quite sure. I guess he needs to be in range, and he can go again. Okay, so maybe he was just still stuck in the animation. So, honestly, not that bad. He's definitely more of a support unit than anything, but definitely a decent unit. So for Shinji, I'm going to put him in good. I'll probably put him behind Kaneki. I don't know. A lot of the supports, they need to do a lot more damage to really be usable. But now we have Kisuke. Okay, so similar to Shinji, I do not have Kisuke up either. But here are his stats at level 1. That's honestly pretty good. Also, I don't have good stats on him either because I just evoed him to get Aizen, to be honest. I have another one that I'm working on. Here's his passives, which if you want to pause and read, but they're actually pretty decent as well. And he has this ultimate, which I'm not sure what it does. Oh, it makes him incredibly fast. And summons his... Okay. So, yeah, I do think he is pretty good. I'm not quite sure if he's meta just because I don't have him up. I wish I did. I do apologize. I'm working on it, but it is a little difficult to say. But I do think I'm gonna put Kisuke in... Oh, this is so tough. I'm gonna put him at the top of good. He might be meta. I do apologize if he is, and it is a little bit skewed. I just have not been able to really use him and understand how good he is yet, just because I've been grinding for so much other stuff. Alright, next we have a Hikari, which holy stutter, which I haven't got yet, but he is a pretty good DPS. I don't think I can put him much higher in meta because his ability's not really that good. His passive's not that good, but he just does a lot of damage, so he is pretty meta. Alright, next we have Thunder Goddess. Now, Thunder Goddess is pretty much a replacement for all the fast units. As you can see, her cooldown is crazy, she's incredibly fast, and she's cheap, and her cooldown to summon is very cheap as well. She has all this on here too, which is decent. Her numbers aren't bad that wise. But her passive is what makes her pretty good. She's a pretty decent boss killer, and she's very good at getting rid of all the units like quickly in the front, just because of how cheap she is. She's also at least 4 placement, if not more. She does not have an ultimate, however, but she is pretty strong. She's pretty good. She's pretty much the new speedster. And so for that, I will put her at the bottom of meta. Her damage is just really bad, I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to have to put her a little bit lower just because her damage could be a lot better, but she's incredibly quick, so she's good at holding stuff up, and she has that passive, so she can do quite a lot of damage to a boss, but she has to get pretty close, so she can get wiped out pretty easily. Next we have Unohana. Alright, next up we have Unohana here. Now, her stats are not very good. She's also not max level, and that's because I've been trying to get her this whole time, and so I finally did get her. I got her earlier today, and I spent over 500 rerolls on her, and I got nothing. So yeah, that's why her stats aren't that great. Also haven't even rolled stats on her yet because, like I said, I just got her. However, her damage numbers and stuff are definitely going to go way up when you get a good trait and stuff, and when she's max level and all that, but that's not even what makes her so good. What makes her so good is this passive, which you can pause and read again if you want, but it is pretty much insinuating we are going to get a bleed meta. Her, Guterro, and Blood Queen are going to be an insane combo, and so she's going to be incredibly good for that bleed team. Because of how strong her abilities are, I'm going to put her in meta. Probably, I don't think she's quite as good as Guterro, because you can bring Guterro on his own, and I don't know if you can bring her. I'd probably put her somewhere around Escanor and Almighty. I'll just put her in between. She's going to be around them, though. Next we have Ichigo, who is another unit I can't get. I have spent over 60,000 gems trying to get him, and I cannot get Ichigo. And I know what you're saying, oh, just, you know, use the pity, but I didn't think it would take that long, so I haven't used the pity. Ichigo, though, is pretty strong, though. His passives are pretty good, and he does a lot of damage. I'd probably put him... I want to put him above Eto. I'm not quite sure if his damage stacks up like that. That is what they're saying it does, but I'm not too sure. So I do apologize if the Ichigo one is wrong. I just haven't been able to get him yet. I've been trying really hard, so I do apologize. But that's just going off his passive and what they say his damage numbers are, which apparently they're really strong. So I'm going to put him that high. Next we have Flame Captain, which is another one I don't have, but he is relatively decent. He's just a good support, it seems like. I'd honestly probably put him right behind Bunny. He just seems to be a good support, nothing crazy. Next we have Switchblade, which I do have but not evoed because she was never good, but she actually did receive a pretty decent buff, which is going to put her kind of in mid, maybe probably behind Funny Valentine. She's a usable unit now. She never really was usable at all, but now she's actually pretty decent. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the summer ends. I have my Discord in the description as well. Once we hit 50 members, we're going to be doing a viewer special video. And I also have my Twitch and second channel if you want to see more of me. With that being said, I hope you had an amazing day. Thank you for watching.